Hi guys, Kip Hicks with Madison County IDA. Got on the agenda because I've got three gentlemen that are on their way back from Albany. They met with some of the members of the governor's cabinet about a anticipated aquaculture facility and future greenhouse facility. They texted me 2 minutes ago saying that they're coming through Canastota as they text. So just to give you an idea, we've got, I believe, three gentlemen that will be making a presentation. I told them to keep it to 10 minutes, 5 minutes Q&A. The planning committee members. Mike Callett is a real estate principal with the Pyramid Brokerage Agency of Syracuse. Alex Sokolov is a finance specialist out of the New York City area, part of his ownership team. And also Bill Sazinski, who is the CEO of a company by the name of Energyme. And they have been working for several years and putting the pieces together for what they're proposing in anticipated first phase would be a 300,000 square foot aquaculture facility and fish farm. It's a large facility that would represent phase one. They will hopefully be able to confirm with you, but their anticipated production, once they're fully operational, would be 3,000 ton of rainbow trout on an annual basis. They would anticipate a capital investment exceeding $50 million. They would have a construction crew of roughly 150 employees, and then full-time employees somewhere in the 60 to 100 range. Phases 2 and 3 would represent a greenhouse type facility, food production. The way that it's been described to me is that phase 1 will be the underground fish farm. Phase 2 would be located directly on top of that, and that there would be a sustainable way in which they are utilizing the fish waste to feed into growing in the greenhouse. That it is a full circle type sustainable operation. I'm under the impression they're also bringing a representative from Urban Feed, who might be out of Denmark. They have secured up to 70% financing for their project through the, Yvonne, help me, Deutsche Bank? What did I tell you earlier today? Export Credit Bank. Out of Norway. Thank you. They have been looking at this opportunity. We have pitched to them the R Park. They can appreciate the sustainable effort, the agriculture focus of Madison County, the renewable energy initiatives that are underway, and they'd like to play a part in that. I see them pulling in. They're parking up the road. We have shown them the subdivision plan for the R Park. I can't tell you off the top of my head which area it is, but I want to say it's roughly a 50 to 70 acre parcel, maybe the furthest north point on Bouvier Road. And they would be looking at the full parcel for their future development.
So it would be the one by the last hydrant, from there up to the restaurant.
That's correct. Again, they are on the front end. They're still in the process of securing financing, but I've explained to them that the wishes of the town and of the planning committee, before we get too far down the road, is for them to come in and at least give a preliminary plan before there's any sort of request for subdivision or even site plan review. Our agency has not received an application, so I can't drill into the project details, but I thought kind of this upfront preliminary, such as what we did at the last meeting, would be appropriate.
Much appreciated, absolutely.
Any questions for me until then?
Is this part of that project that's going down on Elm Street?
It is not.
That's a separate thing altogether?
It is. The project on Elm Street is a major greenhouse facility that would be growing tomatoes. Phase 1 would be in the city of Oneida. Phase 2 would have a portion of the greenhouses located in the town of Lennox and in Lawrenceville. If they're able to stabilize their growing operations and their labor force, they would add a third phase and possibly a fourth. That's a exceptionally large facility, estimated to exceed $100 million in total capital investment. Our agency's been working for the pursuit of that greenhouse for over 6 years now. But it'll be a tremendous impact for the city of Oneida, for the town, hopefully for the workforce all throughout here. If phases 1 and 2 come about, we'd look at a minimum of 118 full-time positions.
It started at the front of the right?
There's only two of them, they make it around to the
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
Water's a big deal for aquaculture.
Absolutely.
So where's the source of water, and it needs to be cold water?
It's going to be an excellent question for these folks to address for you.
Sorry we're late.
You are
Had a hard time getting out of
Bill,
the.
Mike,
Where's the beer?
Nice to meet you, sorry we're late.
gentlemen, come have a seat. They're actually in the middle of presentation. I've given an overview
Hello,
as much as I can. Hello. Thank you, Nice to see you. Nice to
The
see you.
governor's office would let's go.
Mike, would you mind if I turn things over? I gave them a broad-based overview, and they were just asking about the water needs for the future facility. Ed, you want to simply address your question?
Yeah, I've been fishing for
Yeah,
a long time, and I know you need good water,
Yes,
and you need cold water if you're gonna
that's correct.
go trout.
We may actually raise salmon, we're not sure yet.
Salmon.
I would tell you this, if you're asking about the water, the technology is changing at an incredibly rapid rate right now. And what was not possible a year ago, right now is becoming possible. Meaning that we didn't think we were gonna raise salmon, because the problem with salmon is that when you raise them in fresh water, male salmon mature at a much, much earlier age, and then they're not really good to eat, you can't do that, right? So, some of the people in the recirculating aquaculture systems started doing just female eggs, and that works, right? The second thing is that the Global Alliance for Aquaculture Alliance right now, there are a number of members that are starting to experiment with bringing in different types of salt into these circulating systems, into these recirculating systems, and it seems to be working. So we're anticipating that within the next year, we're gonna have much better data on what we're gonna do in terms of going forward with that, but that's it. In terms of the systems that are out there though, you can recirculate as much as 99% of the water. And the water that we do go through and treat will make sure that all the water, everything is extracted from it prior to it being either re-entered into the system or whatever. There won't be anything in the water at that point, okay? We're environmentalists before anything else as far as that goes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
We also have a tremendous source of energy, methane.
Right.
Will you use that in any way?
You know, I think in the beginning we'll probably plug into that, but I think eventually what we're probably gonna end up doing is producing most of the energy ourselves on the site. I mean, the opportunity, we're gonna be a cutting edge facility in terms of the different types of energies, applications and technologies we try to employ. And we're gonna be experimenting, I think, on a regular basis with new types of technologies. The key to the site is that initially we're starting out as a fish farm, right?
Bill, this might be an excellent opportunity just to kind of take a step back and give them a broad overview coming from your mouth.
Okay, the idea for this project has been something that we've considered. And this group, our partners from Norway, Mike Hallett, all the folks, we've been considering for a long time. This has been in development. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a model for food production and supporting food production that can be scaled out throughout New York State, throughout the rest of the United States, and hopefully globally. And the idea is, as much as the fish farm is the place where we're starting the project, the fish farm is the way we start simply because in order for us to get the type of funding that we're going to get, which is extraordinarily generous funding from Norway, we need to utilize their technologies. And we wanted to limit the risk factor by creating a project that's been created many times over before profitably, so that they would feel comfortable in making this very, very large investment into this site. However, once that is up and running, we're going to be in partnership with places, with groups like Cornell University. and we intend on creating a series of secondary projects. Vertical agriculture, I don't know if everyone's seen that, but these are indoor facilities where you can grow many, many layers of food at the same time. Except that our focus on that is more so of not developing the same types of crops of tomatoes, green leafy vegetables, herbs, things like that, which are what are generally being grown. But growing things that are used as nutraceuticals, that can be used for the pharmaceutical industry. We're trying to create a high-value crop. And that's gonna help us fund out the next couple parts to that. And what we're really looking at long-term is creating a site where we raise algae and where we raise insect protein. And combining the insect protein and the algae protein to create pelletized food to be able to feed fish. And the reason we're wanting to do this is very simple. Right now, the move towards farmed fish, towards land-raised farmed fish around the world is skyrocketing. And at the same time, the amount of fish that we're able to harvest from the ocean is going down dramatically, to the point where they're anticipating that by 2050, they don't anticipate that we're gonna have any more livestock or any more fish that we're gonna be able to harvest from the ocean. We've just done tremendous damage. On the other hand, everybody's saying, well, we'll do the farm fish from then on. Problem is that the pelletized food that feeds the farmed fish comes from fish species like sardines, menhaden, mackerel that are not deemed really quality table fish. And those fish are being exterminated or removed from the population much, much more rapidly than the other types of fish. And they expect those will be no longer a viable market or viable crop to harvest by 2032. This is going to create the opportunity that if we're going to continue to do farmed fish, we have to find alternative ways to feed them, right? But we don't want to feed them crap. We don't want to feed fish things that are not going to make them nutritious so that you don't get the omega-3 and all the other wonderful attributes of fish. So we're going to be working with Cornell and with our scientists, the University of Washington, a bunch of other groups to try to create a fish meal that is a combination of zooplankton, phytoplankton, which means algae animals and algae plants, and insect protein, whereby we're trying to match the nutrient needs of the fish to what we're producing. This is going to be a multiple trillion-dollar industry within the next 20 years. And no one is really doing it effectively yet. So we have an opportunity to start growing that business from this spot into the rest of New York State, as we talked to about the governor's office. It's an exciting possibility. And this is what's going to be feeding the world later on. Because as much as we have some of the best farms and farmers in New York State and throughout the United States, I think we do a remarkable job, and I think they're really well educated and do a great job in preserving the soil and conserving their resources. We are still running into problems with the climate changing, with the seasons are becoming less reliable, and there are things playing in the background that I think people aren't even aware of, such as phosphorus levels. We've got 40 years of mineable phosphorus, and that's a requirement for flower and root development for plants, and it's a major part of fertilizer. So if we don't get better at recycling our materials, at raising our food much more efficiently, more effectively, and supporting our farmers by creating these technologies and applications, we're not going to be in a very, very secure position for our food. And really, this is what we talked to the governor's office about. This project is going to start that process. We're going to develop hundreds of jobs on the site. They're going to be really good paying jobs. And we're going to be training people. Part of what we do and part of what our entire situation is based on is a training and education platform. So we're going to make what we do and what we're doing in terms of improvements available to everyone. So this is going to be an open source project where we'll be training people for better jobs, and if we can do it without charging anybody, we're going to try and do that. Depends on whether we have the funding and whether we're profitable enough. But the idea is we're trying to do that as part of our social responsibility. Okay? And I think it gives you a good idea about the project. But the first phase would be the fish farm. Secondary phases would be on-site production of energy, vertical farming, insect protein, algae production, and an active online community site. Our company, Energyme, has a non-profit called Energyme University, which is a 501c3 charitable organization. It's based about education and training and job training. That's what we do. We're a United Nations impact partner. We're a co-signer of the United Nations Compact, and we'll be providing that as our contribution to the community. We'll be doing tours. The idea is to try to do something that works in the community, betters the community, And under no circumstances are we gonna have a negative impact on the environment. It's gonna be the exact opposite. We're gonna create a site that creates all of this productivity, creates all these jobs, and has a zero carbon footprint.
It's all about sustainability, and not necessarily sustainability relative to our operating platform, but sustainability specific to the community to which this site or this development would be spotted. So, 62 jobs is what is estimated for phase one, and if you didn't know it from what I told you, this proposed facility is 300,000 square feet of footprint. That's phase one. Phase two is pretty much undetermined, but my guess it would be at least another
It'll be
100,000
huge.
feet.
Yeah, much more
High
than that,
bay.
actually.
Vertical farming.
If we do this, this is gonna be an incredible project. This is gonna be a project that's gonna get, probably, I know it's gonna get national attention, but may get international attention as well. And this is gonna be a hub for this type of development. And I mean, the benefits to the community are gonna be wonderful in terms of tax base, in terms of people that are gonna wanna come here, walk through the facility, see what we're doing, and we'll be able to create probably, as it gets going, lots of jobs, not just here, but increasing the productivity of farmers, making them more productive 365 days a year, as we start to transfer more of the pressure of producing food for New York State indoors, which is a necessity. It's not what, I don't think it's what God intended. I mean, but we've got 7 billion people, we're gonna have 9 billion people soon, and we're running out of resources. And the only way we're gonna do that is by empowering our farmers to much higher productivity levels. And that's what we're trying to figure out with Cornell, with the University of Washington, with Texas A&M, with the University of Arkansas, University of Missouri. We're working with dozens of universities, trying to figure out the different elements that are gonna allow us.
This project, Kip knows, started approximately 9 years ago. At that time, it was PAG, Central New York Agribusiness Park, which is the same name that we're giving this project. But it was 9 years ago. What is different now versus 9 years ago is we bring with us Marguerite Valor and Rita Westick. They provide at least the other half of our story, at least the other half of our ability to perform. Specifically, and they can speak of their expertise. They're from Norway, and it is specifically Norwegian technology and Norwegian financing that is getting us to this level. And the technology specific to our relationship or their relationship with this group called Aqua Optima is that they've built 25 of these mega facilities elsewhere around the world, none of which have they developed in the United States. So this would be, in essence, our national headquarters for this particular product and project design.
You want to say something? Do you want to say something?
Well, I would say hey. What do you say in Norway? I'm Rita, this is Margrethe. He tried to pronounce it. And we have a little jet lag because we flew in only 1.5 days ago to New York from Oslo. Well, I came from Trondheim. Is any of you familiar with cities in Norway at all?
Well, Norway is in Scandinavia.
Norway is part of Scandinavia. It is the, one of the most, skilled aqua nations. And we have been raising a lot of salmon that we export to the US, for example. And we import also from Scotland and Canada. But Norway is a major supplier, especially to China. So after oil, ocean-based fish has been a major income to Norway. We have a long coastline to the Atlantic and we are in all the seas. And also shipping is a big business in Norway. We brought some brochures, we can send some around. You can look at the concept because, as Bill explained, we want to start with the aqua system. This is a sort of brief, you can send it around one this way, one that way, and you can...
Put one on the table too.
Yeah.
Here.
And maybe you want some of these brochures, you can cast an eye on it to get an idea. But the thing is, you see our logo is a fish, and it's a green leaf, which means that when the fish, the fish makes poo and CO2, which happens to be the favorite meal of the plants. To make it simple, because we have, it's a circular economy. We exploit the rest, of the fish when we have, they also make CO2 and some dead individual and some feed that comes down to the bottom. It's all collected in a filter. It's called an ecotrap. They collect all the particles. And then the ammonia, which is the sludge, it's transferred into nitrate, which is plant feed. So it is a circular economy. And also, when we harvest fish and plants, actually 2/3 of the plant will be the root and the leaves and things that we don't use. That is valuable biomass. And also from the fish, when we take out the fillet, there's the head, there's the roe and the liver and everything, and the skin. When we were in Iceland recently, they had lamps made of cod skin. And I have a friend in Trondheim, my home city in Norway, that makes clothes from salmon and shoes. It's very good skin also. So this is, you can use all the others, so it's a new industry emerging all over the world. It's called the circular economy, the bioeconomy, which we all go into. We have to understand our living conditions, the environmental issues we're dealing with, which is not so, always so, we don't have some optimistic perspectives only because we see that people will have to move. We might explore and experience scarceness of food and clean water. So in this system we want to make sure that the food is sustainably produced and it can be produced on a higher level. So we are very happy to work with these guys, with Energine and with Mike here, because they have the knowledge and they have the courage. And in Norway we also have a national investment board that is a sort of financial vehicle to support export of Norwegian technology. So they, in case you guys raise 20 to 30% of the costs, the Norwegian government through Export Credit Norway and the Guarantee Institute for that are the two vehicles that can support a project like this with about 70% of the costs as loans, but very fair loans, like low interest and up to 18 years to pay back, which means it's a very good terms in case we develop this cooperation. But then, of course, the Norwegian government don't want to, spend our taxpayers' money on something that doesn't work, so we have to be sure that it is professional and that you can handle the loans over the years and be profitable. And this is profitable both economically, ecologically, because it's sustainably produced. There's no pesticides, no antibiotics, no SKPs, all these things that you have troubles when you do fish farming in the oceans. We don't have that because it's controlled ecological environments. And no climate gas outlets of this, because we use the CO2 and we don't produce any harmful side effects for the nature and the environment. So that's how this is. It's a closed, you control the environment. It's not rocket science, but it's smart. So what we are aiming, we're not, there's not that many big facilities built based on RAS. RAS means recirculating aquasystems. That's a new technology. That's the technology that is the game changer that you see in the brochure of Aqua Optima. And they are considered to be among the 5 best, not biggest, in the world in terms of technology. So they are very happy to be our provider and partner on recirculating aquasystems with us. They will, if this is going to be realized, they will be here to do a feasibility study, a risk analysis, pre-project, see water intake, no harming the nature with any metals or toxic materials. So we have to make sure that this is 100% safe, because that is the whole point, to make food in a sustainable way and safe way.
That's also a prerequisite of the DEC and the EPA. So one way or the other, even if we came in here with the intention of not doing that, they won't allow you to do it.
Right.
We're going to be good. Any questions perhaps that we can answer?
I think it's, I think your ideas are great, and I was part of the Cornell program in the early days when we did recycling fish, or
That's the school. My son
Bill
goes to
Youngs
Cornell.
and
Yeah.
those folks, yeah. But I think tying to the universities is a great plus here, because certainly Cornell, and then we've got other SUNY units here that you could have interns, you could
Absolutely.
have the education
We
part.
opened our doors to Cornell. We told them that our entire facility is wide open, they can use it any way they want, for research and development, for their doctoral students, for training, for education. We recognize we're a servant of the community, and we're entering from that respect.
And I also think that, we have some of the best fisheries in the world here in central New York.
Yes.
Nye Lake is not that far away, 20 miles away. We got the Finger Lakes, we got deep cold water fisheries. So I think trying to meld into the melding pot here, if that's the right way to say it, would be great, if you could meld into our sort of ecological community here.
I've been fishing in the Catskills since I'm 7 years old. I'm
Yeah.
a fanatic trout fisherman, and I recognize the value of clean water. And anytime I see
we've
pollution, it
got
drives
a
me
lot
nuts.
of, Great Lakes, Lake Ontario,
Yeah.
heavy metals are an issue still.
Yeah.
And so,
Can I ask how many people will live here in this place or in the closed area around the
I'll
site?
stay if you do that.
Well, we all
You're
live
gonna
in
like
the town.
want to
We all
leave.
live in this township.
Yes, good.
2,000.
Wonderful.
2,000? Yeah, it's about the same size where I grew up, but the
What's
bigger-
just out of curiosity, why here why is here of interest to you in your project?
Can I answer that? I'll answer that if it's okay. The bottom line is this, you guys have already, through what Kip is involved with, set up a park that basically could make the approval process, site evaluation, all of that, go faster. It is meant to be green. There are assets at that facility that we could utilize perhaps.
Maybe that's what I'm kind of curious as to
Energy.
which ones would be.
Things of that,
Okay.
energy for one, we may
Okay.
be able to use methane, on the site. There's other things that we could utilize, but the point basically was this comes back to Mike, and this comes back to his being local to this area, and he was in charge, and still is basically, of a site, that would work for us. So he proposed this site specifically, right? We just took a look at it, came up here, had a couple of goes with Kip and everything else, and basically came to the decision that if the approval process amongst all of you, right, if we can work together on a very friendly basis, which is what we're looking for, right? If there is an ability to sort of fast track this, then we are comfortable making this not only our first site to do this, more to come, but this could actually and should probably be headquarters, right, which is a whole different situation. It means that we really have more than just an interest in doing a facility. We have an interest in sort of setting up shop, as it were, and staying here with all of our key people, as we fan out and do other projects. The reception with the state, which we just came from, and by the way, we apologize for being late, but that's where we were, was quite warm and welcoming. I mean, really, very much so. The reception that we had with Cornell, which preceded the meeting with the state, was also very, very favorable and friendly. This is about food security at the end of the day. If you really boil this down, what is this? What does this mean, basically? New York State imports 80%, 80, of the fish that we consume. Period, end of story. If you go to the supermarkets, we all do, and if you buy farm-raised fish, which is what we're talking about, almost all of that fish has antibiotics in it. Almost all of it. So, relatively speaking, it's toxic and not healthy. We're going to eliminate that by not using any antibiotics. The state is interested basically in creating a brand, right, raised in New York State, with all the workers, in New York State. All of that, and we like that basically, right? So what we're interested in basically is seeing if we can't get after food security by being able to grow all year round, as opposed to a couple of months a year, which is essentially what you could do outdoors. We do not mean to put farmers out of business in any way, shape, form, or manner around here. I want to just say that at the outset, because anybody could work with us that wants to, right? So if there was a farmer anywhere in the surrounding area and wanted to do a project of this nature, if it came together and could work out, we would be willing to do that, including help with financing and things of that nature. So this isn't about putting anybody out of business or anything like that. We just see this as, if the food doesn't have to come in from California, if it doesn't have to come in from Ecuador, if it doesn't have to come in from all these far-flung places, which it does right now, right? This is beyond all of us, it's just what is, right? If we can raise it here, If we can basically have the employment structure to raise it here, not only can we do it here, but we can export this model elsewhere. We can export it to New Jersey, we can export it to Connecticut, we can go right up the whole eastern seaboard because they all have the same problem. And the jobs can stay here, right, and go there. So that's really what we're trying to do. That's the overarching, if you will, theme of what we're trying to do. And so we came here to basically see whether or not we can work together, because if we can, we want to get after the process and do it.
We pretty much got a unanimous welcome from our meeting in Albany, which, from my perspective, there's been a lot of toil and effort and persistence and commitment and drive and obnoxiousness as to staying involved in this project. And I say obnoxiousness, staying after people and committing myself to this project, and it's cost me a significant amount of money personally. I think it's a fair statement to say that when you can put forth a group that we met with in Albany, Roanne DeStito, she's the Commissioner of Office of General Services, Commissioner of Ag Markets, Richard Ball, Director of Purchasing and Procurement for OGS, Sean Carroll. That was the governor's appointee for agricultural development in New York State. That was 4 of 12 people that were there hosting us. And it was tough getting everything done in 1 hour, because all we had was from 4 to 10 after 5, and we just had to leave. And so we're really looking forward, frankly, to spotting the site in the town of Lincoln and being good neighbors and building a dynamic project that, frankly, the you folks can be proud of. So,
And that'll be open to the community.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question? Two. One question is, what kind of crowd are you? Are you an organization? Second, do you have a school in the neighborhood that could actually, that this site could prove a sort of learning arena? You can learn life science, biology, you can chip a fish and you can see the whole life cycle, what it eats and everything, until you have it on your plate. And it's also proven that elderly people, that I'm sort of growing older and older, they have lots of benefits from working with live creatures like plants and fish. So if you can create jobs, that's one thing, but you can also include others in the local community to be a part of it and benefit from it in terms of recreational and rehabilitation and learning.
So I'll answer that. So we are one township of 19 different towns within Madison County. I'm the town supervisor of this town. So among that we have a multitude of K through 12 schools. We have several community colleges and other SUNY schools and universities. So we definitely have that type of multitude of educational opportunities in the nearby area. And we, with the subdivision and the establishment of the art park, is our county's efforts to bring and have green and very sustainable, but more of a environmentally favorable type of industry and
Well, you're going to be
growth.
commended, because Onondaga County is leaps and bounds behind Madison County, and they don't really pursue ag-based development. They're just not set up for it. So to your credit, Madison County is a dynamic leader. I mean, Kip's efforts getting this project done with the art park is a tremendous accomplishment to which you all should be very proud of. And we want to be part of that.
Thank you.
Well, I'd have to say that we have been looking for these types, in my mind, as a board member, we've been looking for these types of things. Something that melds into the community, brings employment, is sustainable and non-polluting.
Good neighbor.
We're trying to create what I think is gonna be, I mean, I think there's certain companies out there, like Google. If you work for Google, it's the greatest job in the world. They have movie theaters, they have 5-star chefs. People go there, it's like being on vacation. We wanna create a corporate model that really integrates with the community, that a different type of model than what's out there, than what people are used to. Something that where we're going to be providing a lot of resources for the community. We recognize our responsibilities, but we also recognize the opportunity. The fact that we can come in here and you folks will welcome us in and allow us to do this job, it's a big deal. This could be the start of something great for what we're trying to accomplish, and it's something that we appreciate. So we'll be wonderful partners, and this will be a site that people are going to want to visit, that kids are going to want to come to, that schools are going to want to tour, that people are going to want to spend time at because of the wonderful work that's going to be going on and the things that people are going to do on the site. And we'll work on that as time goes by. But this project, the entire concept for the park and the work that Kip's done has been fantastic. And the fact that Mike was able to find the property and put this, partnership, at least start the partnership building and get it to the point where it is right now, we're very, what's the word I'm looking for? We're happy about it. That happy's a good word. But we're looking forward to this, and we hope it's gonna work out.
But
We'll do everything we can.
the devil's always in the details.
Yes.
And there are a lot of details.
And it sounds like a lot of details have not been developed yet. Maybe they have, I don't know. In terms of what the facility would look like,
Right.
what are we talking in terms of, fish production? What's the scale?
Well, we
What's
do
the
know certain
market?
things. We
Is
know we're
there-
gonna be
the
building a
market-
facility
3,000
for,
tons.
I think 3,000, what is it?
3,000.
3,000 tons of fish per year, which is an extraordinarily large facility. I think it's gonna be the largest facility of its type in North America. But when you're talking about the details, in certain respects, we've been working on this for 9 years, so a lot of the details we had figured out 8 years ago, okay? But in terms of the on-site challenges, we're a cutting-edge company, and we have access to a lot of new technologies, the applications are changing, and we're really plugged in to the science community and the education community and the technology development community. So once we get our engineers on the site, we're gonna start having to make determinations as to how we use energy, as to how we relate to the property. And that's what sustainability really is about. You can't build the same project in every place you go, because we're not building batteries, we're building things that fit in to that landscape, that fit into that climate, that fit into that community. And the problems that we have to solve are gonna be problems that work in this environment, that work at that site, that's gonna work 365 days a year. And we'll come up with, I think, really good decisions and very, very innovative solutions to that, because there's such great science around now and technology. I think we have options. And for the first time, we have lots of options as to how we go. I'm sorry.
No, you're not sorry. I'm happy. Isn't that a good word? The thing is, the Aqua Optima, who is the supplier of RAS, they have built and they can deliver, and it's all the details in terms of the production technology and facility is already proven. So I told you about the filter, the EcoTrap, that is a sludge collector, the particle trap. But there's a lot of other things around this, like sensors that monitor water, salination, if there is salt, the temperature, oxygen, because we feed oxygen into the water and have to relieve the water from the CO2 that the fish produces. So these are some details that have been all figured out on how to do it. And this is step one, and that is the major step, 3,000 tons per year of production, and that can be done. So the most important details to look into from our side and from Aqua Optima side is to see what is the source of water in and water up, because before, when we had this flow through aqua system, that was both more expensive and more challenging. This RAS, the recirculated aqua system, actually means that, of course, there's some water that through vapor, and when you harvest, and you need some water in and some of the sludge water out. So how is the water quality that we can have into the system, and how do we cleanse the water on the other side and dispose of and harvest the phosphorus and take out metals and things, that we know that we are not harming the environment in the community. That is of major interest to Aqua Optima and Urban Feed here when being here. So what we will do next is to do a feasibility study and to do a pre-project and in cooperation with you who know the nature and you know the order around here and what is the best way to handle this and that. So when that is done, the step one will be the aqua. That isn't built over one night. It's an effort, and then if you put up the small fingerlings or fry, you know, the kindergarten, and then they grow up, and then they grow out, and then they are in what you call it when they fast, when they don't eat. Yeah, like 68 weeks. It will take from 15 to 24 months before you harvest the first batch. But then, you know, you put in, when you harvest here, you put in the beginning again, then it goes circular. So you can, you know, you can also have different species, but we've been looking into both salmon, but we can do a lot of species as you see there. So that is also important to decide what will be the best for you, what will be the best market price. But for the salmon, to export salmon from Norway to US, and we export a lot, it costs 14 kroner, which is about $2 per kilo in transport costs, which is the flight, you know. Well, when you produce it here, you don't have that. So first, the cost of production is sort of now being more or less equal with ocean-based and land-based. But when you reduce transportation, as you do here, and you have access to all the surrounding cities with less than a day transport, you will actually have a competitive edge, you know, on the price as well. So it's important to look into the market, the species, what will be the best way to build the business. And then it's of course all the other, you know, that it is sustainably grown and that you can save energy, and that Bill has a lot of expertise, both himself and in his team, as do we, on how to reduce energy costs, because that is also a driving factor when it comes to production costs. But these are things we will look into, and when that is so, then addition will be made.
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? But we have gotten some preliminary construction estimates from a local company, not local to Canastota specifically, or but in Syracuse, and we do have a business plan and we do have projections. And you know, we're on this trip is, you could, aside from this meeting, we're on the money trail. We're looking to fill in the blanks and make sure we've got all the pieces properly attended to the point of being able to put this project together. We're intending to fulfill the CFA initiative, the Consolidated Funding Application Initiative, which is due in July 21st.
21st.
And that's an extremely detailed application and a strong indicator of our commitment to pursue this project. So we have done some homework, enough to the point of not having to write a check. I mean,
This is exciting for us. I mean, this
the
is,
full analysis is
for
going to
Michael
cost
and I,
about $1 million.
this is 9 years already that we've been working on this project. So, I mean, there's persistence and there's commitment, but we're excited about it. We're about to start something that is gonna mean a lot more work for us, but it's the type of work that we've been committed to, you know, for quite a period of time. And really happy that we're doing it here. I mean, this is where we originally intended to do it, a little bit further up the road towards Syracuse, but generally in this area, which is where we were looking originally, so that's great.
This is really our first step, and as I explained to the committee up front, was this preliminary discussion, the comments from Ed that this is the type of development that the town is interested in seeing. Obviously, there's a lot of detail that they would need to see, but a lot of that would come out in your site plan, which is further down the line. But if there's not any more questions, I told you we'd take 10 minutes, we're pushing 45, but I think it's all good.
If I could ask a question, and first of all, thank you all for coming here.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
far away.
Really.
And certainly thank you for bringing this opportunity. Kit, thank you for your hard work. Would there be a certain amount of processing capacity with this, or is this purely production?
That's a good question. I think what we're gonna try and do, we wanna maximize value for the property, right? We wanna maximize production value. Vertical integration, meaning the more that we can process the product on site, is gonna increase that value. I'm thinking at this point that we're looking at doing a smokehouse, that we're probably gonna be processing quite a bit of the food for smoked salmon, maybe salmon dip, things like that. It does two things. It alleviates some of the pressure that we have to sell all the salmon to the fresh market and extends the shelf life of the salmon that we process. And the third thing is, it gives us a much more valuable byproduct. We get to also hire other people. So this is a benefit on a lot of different levels. But yeah, the question would be, yes, we plan on processing.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for waiting for us and having us here.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much, and sorry we were late.
Do you guys have any other questions before we let them go? No? Very awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hope to hear
Really
from you again.
appreciate it.
You will, thank you.
Well, I need to go to the restroom, and I'll show it to the open. We didn't have time to go to the restroom before last meeting here.